I think we disregard how important hormones are across the board, not just for fertility, brain health, bone health, muscle composition, everything is so integrative to our physiology and our health.
Today, we're joined by Dr. Kay Linker, a neuroscientist with a deep focus on the biology of aging. Her research focuses on how aging affects cellular function and cognition, with a particular interest in the biology that drives cognitive longevity or decline. Dr. Linker is passionate about making complex science accessible, bridging the gap between cutting-edge research and everyday health practices.
What's the science supporting from an anti-aging and longevity standpoint?
Sauna has incredible benefits for cognitive longevity, reduces dementia risk by 66%, decreases mortality risk anywhere from 40 to 50%, reduces cardiovascular risk by 47%.
What are your non-negotiables when it comes to your own personal longevity and brain health?
I work out 6 to 7 times a week. That's something that I'm always 100% on. There's other things that I'm 80-20, like nutrition.
So if you had one suggestion for women in midlife to stay sharp and vibrant besides exercise, what would it be?
So there's a few things, but I'm going to say this one because we haven't talked about it, which is creatine.
Yes, I was hoping we could talk about creatine. Get ready to feel amazing this fall. Our 7-day Vitality Reboot kicks off September 14th, and you don't want to miss it. This isn't your average detox. It's a total mind-body reset that leaves you feeling light, energized, sleeping better, and ready to crush your goals. The best part? You won't be doing this alone. You'll be surrounded by our incredible, supportive community of women who are all working toward the same thing, feeling their absolute best. Together, we'll share tips, celebrate wins, and keep each other motivated every single day. Fall is the perfect time to reset before the holiday chaos hits. Head to the link in our show notes to grab your spot for our Fall Vitality 7-day reboot. Trust us, you'll thank yourself for saying yes to this reset. Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast, where we empower you to take charge of your health and happiness. We're Marnie
and Stephanie,
board-certified integrative health practitioners, holistic wellness coaches, and passionate explorers of all things mind, body, and soul.
Each week, we bring you expert insights, real-life stories, and practical tools to help you bridge the gap between where you are now and where you truly want to be. From longevity and nutrition to mindset, movement, and healing, we dive deep to uncover the root causes of wellness and vitality.
Join us and our growing community as we explore what it really means to create your art of living well in a way that's authentic, sustainable, and uniquely yours. Hi, Kay. Thank you so much for joining us on our show today. Your work at the intersection of neuroscience, longevity, and women's health is so incredibly timely and a topic that we just love to talk about. So we cannot wait to dive into your insights on optimizing brain health and aging and all the wonderful things that you like to talk about.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm obsessed with all those things, so I'm excited to talk about it.
So before we dive in, if you could instantly master one skill, could be wellness related, doesn't need to be, what would it be for you?
For me, I'm terrible at learning languages. If I could master that skill, I would love that. There's a ton of research about bilingualism and having better cognitive performance across your lifespan, learning faster. I am terrible at languages, so I would love to be able to learn that.
Actually, you're the second guest that has said that about languages. So
There's Duolingo. You could do a little bit each day.
It doesn't help. I feel like it's like I don't need to know the word for dog. I need to know how to ask where the bus is, things like that.
what inspired you to focus on neuroscience work and specifically aging and longevity for women? And, you're younger than Marnie and myself, and it's really fascinating. And I don't know, I think it's super cool that you're interested in this. And we'd love to share a little bit with our listeners about how you got into this space.
When I was an undergrad, I actually was an art history major. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I ended up volunteering in a neuroscience lab, and I just loved it. I was like, this is the coolest thing. You get to understand more about the most fascinating organ, which is the brain. And as I went through sort of my undergraduate, PhD, and then postdoc career, I really wanted to focus on a topic that I would use for the rest of my life. I used to study addiction neuroscience, which is also very interesting. But what's so cool about cognitive longevity and understanding the aging science underlying the brain is that you can implement those learnings into your daily life to improve your cognitive performance today and reduce your risk of dementia later. And to me, there's just nothing cooler than that. And it's a fascinating topic that I get to then use in my day to day. I just love it.
And I'm sure you have a lot of like friends and family that are also like probably picking your brain and wanting to talk about this too. So,
Yeah, it's great for dinner parties. People have a lot of
right.
questions.
Although maybe after a while that gets to be exhausting. I don't know. But you seem very energetic and wanting to talk about this. So, yeah.
No, people have fascinating questions. So when you work in academia, everyone sort of thinks the same way because you're in the lab, you're writing papers, you're writing grants. Normal people or people that are not in this space have very interesting questions because they're so far removed that they just think about it differently. So then you start to think about it differently too. It's great. I love it.
Well, we would love to dive into cognitive health. And I know that I've heard you say that we have far more control over our cognitive health than we may think. And can we talk about that a little bit? And also, you hear a lot about APOE4, and I know a lot of our listeners probably don't know what that is. I've been tested for it. I think Stephanie's been tested for it. I actually know a few people that have the gene. And I'm just wondering, if you can talk a little bit about this and then, some of the things that we can do to move the needle in our own cognitive health.
Yeah, so the ApoE4 variant is a variant that increases your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. It increases your risk. It is not a death sentence. And there are a lot of things that you can do to reduce that risk, even to the point that's beyond someone who doesn't even have the variant that isn't doing these things. The biggest pillar for this is exercise, which is kind of surprising because you would think that would be maybe for muscle longevity or heart health, but it's a major, major lever for cognitive longevity. Part of this is because 90% of the vasculature within the brain is thinner than a strand of hair. So it's extremely sensitive to any changes within that architecture, meaning if you are not getting your blood flowing, it's going to stop flowing to that area. For this, you really want to have two aspects of cardiovascular exercising that you are implementing each week. The largest time you want to spend is in low impact zone 2. Zone 2 is a heart rate zone. It's like 60 to 70% max effort. This is anywhere from, 110 beats per minute to 130 beats per minute, depending on your max heart rate. You want to spend about 2 hours a week in this time zone. You also want to sprinkle in zone 5. This is another heart rate zone. Is like 80 to 90% max effort. You're going all out. You're sweating. You can barely breathe. You're really pushing yourself. You want to be in this zone anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. The thing with, especially in women, is you don't want to overdo your zone 4, zone 5. Some people are doing 0. You can't do 0. You need to have some. But if you overdo it, especially if you already live a stressful life, you're not sleeping as much, this is going to impact your health negatively. It's a small proportion of people that do this, but it's important to note, especially in women, because we're more stress sensitive. And this includes stress sensitivity to exercise that does induce ROS if you're doing it at a high level. So, most of your time in your workouts for cardiovascular health, zone 2, long walks regularly, and then have a couple days a week where you're sprinting or you're doing a crazy cycle class and you're really, really pushing your max heart rate. You also need to do strength, but I know there's a lot.
Well, and it's so interesting that you mentioned exercise. And I know I'm just like jumping to conclusions here, but I can name a few people that I know that have developed Alzheimer's that are like major exercisers. And I know there's so many other factors, but it's interesting.
Yeah, so another pillar that you can use is omega 3s. So, having a low omega 3 index is number 6 reason of having preventable death. So, we don't realize how important having a high omega 3 index is for cognitive health as well as heart health. And omega 3s help reduce chronic inflammation, this chronic low grade inflammation that is sort of these consistent cytokines that are just around, TNF alpha, IL-6. It's not sort of an acute response to an injury. It's this maladaptive response that's chronic and low grade that really disrupts cellular function, as well as it can improve blood flow, again, kind of by reducing this chronic inflammation. So, really getting 1 to 3 grams of EPA per day is going to help with that.
Okay, I'd love to dive into this a bit. I mean, we've talked a lot about exercise and movement, and I love, and maybe we can share a little bit your thoughts on that zone 5 and how other ways to get it, because I know you do like that 4x4, I believe, workouts. But the omega 3 is something that we haven't focused on, or I haven't focused on when it comes to brain health. Yes, it's the inflammation, and yes, it has to do with heart health, right? But I recently took an omega 3 test. Marnie and I are both integrative health practitioners, so we can administer functional at-home functional medicine lab testing. This is the third time I've done it in like 6 years. And I take omega 3s. I'm not always the best with it because it's like in the fridge and sometimes I forget. But I'm also taking energy bits, and I eat fish once a, like a good high omega 3 fish once a week, and my number does not rise. I found out when I was on vacation and we were in Sicily, and they do a lot of like sardines and mackerel, and I was like, well, this is just what I'm going to start doing. And I started eating it. I'm curious your thoughts. Do people, or what have you seen with respect to like getting those numbers elevated? And have you seen anything where sometimes the supplements don't work, or a healthy diet with, and do hemp hearts all the time, which I know we're high in that. So curious how you get that 1 to 3 grams of EPA, or what you would recommend for people.
The fish once a week, it's just not enough.
I know.
Unfortunately, like
I would eat it every day if my family would also eat it every day,
And then
and if
there's the
someone would
mercury
prepare it.
issue. Like
Well,
there's
right. Like what kind of
it's
fish
like
and how clean is
it's
it?
so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's all these variables also with supplements. There's rancid fish oils. It's one of the harder ones to get right. It's also kind of a boring supplement because you don't really feel it. Like I also take creatine. I feel the cognitive effects of creatine when I take 10 grams. Fish oil, if you're not raising your levels with the supplement you have, maybe try krill oil, and it's a high quality supplement. Maybe try krill oil. It could be that you were seeing increases after your sardine trip.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
thought I should have tested
Your
myself right
sardine
after
trip.
Sicily.
I wish I liked sardines. I can't stand them.
Yeah, I can't
But
either.
Okay, I have
can't
a
even
tip for
stomach
everyone,
them.
though. It's more anchovies, which also have good amounts. You chop them up super fine and put them, and my kids will eat it too. Put it in like a chimichurri or like an herb, like cilantro, parsley, olive oil, and you use it as the salt. Also, we did a cooking class with my family when we were in Sicily, and they use anchovies all the time in their sauces, and it just becomes like capers, olives, and you chop them up very fine, and you put them with the sauce. No one will know. It just gives you that saltiness that you need.
that's such a good tip because that's what Caesar salad kind of is, right?
Yeah. So you can chop it up into things, and you'll never know. Like my kids will do this sauce and they don't know the difference.
I got to do that. I'm going to be the kid. I'll trick myself.
Well, and I'm thinking about the omega thing. So I think I shared this with you, Stephanie. I tested myself probably 6 months ago, and my numbers had actually risen. And I've been taking energy bits and recovery bits. Are you familiar with that, Kay? It's
What
algae.
is that?
They're
Okay.
algae supplements. So it's spirulina and chlorella, religiously now for like 2 years. And I think it is from that, but I stopped taking my omega-3 because the guest told us that this would take care of that, basically. And my numbers did go up, but now when you're saying your numbers didn't go up, it makes me question if the results were right or if it was like a fluke and the test wasn't right. Like, I just don't know because my numbers were low before that.
So is her argument that it increases your index because it increases the absorption of whatever omega 3s you're going to be ingesting outside of that supplement or directly? Because I don't know how else it would do that.
She was saying you don't need to take an omega 3 if you are taking the energy bits. And for specifically was it the chlorella or the spirulina? I think it's the spirulina, the energy bits versus the recovery bits. But I take those are ones I actually do take religiously, and I've been taking them same long time as you, Marnie. It didn't help me, but everyone's different. This is the point of why you have to
Right,
test
right.
because everyone's body is different. I was actually wondering, do I have some sort of weird genetic issue that's, I don't
Well, and
know.
sometimes the body doesn't process the supplements properly also.
Yes. That's why
So
this having a supplement in a food matrix, like if you can get it from food, it's better because when a specific ingredient is in the matrix of a food, we are designed to absorb it more versus a single ingredient supplement.
well, and this is a food. This is actually food. It's not even really considered a supplement. It is algae. It is actually a food. So it's super interesting.
So it must be that it's algae-based EPA and DHA versus like the spirulina and chlorella because I don't think those have
I
EPA and
can send
DHA.
you what it is after
This
Okay.
is a
this.
good question. We're going to have
Yeah.
to follow
So
up for everyone.
I kind of want to have her come talk about this again, just specifically in reference to omega.
For sure too, because a lot of people also don't wanna take a fish supplement. They may be vegan or they're against how it's derived or they're scared about how many bad omega-3 supplements are out there. So, the number one question I get asked when I talk about omega-3s is, "How can I get this without taking a fish oil supplement?" So, it's a huge thing that people are sort of concerned about and wanna get around fish oil. If you eat 150 grams of salmon or similar fish, you can get every day. That's a lot of fish.
I mean, that's not realistic, right?
No.
Okay, well, lots to think about when it comes to omegas, right? And I think we should move on because we could just do a whole episode on this topic and it's super interesting. But can we talk about women and brain health specifically? I know that so many studies have been done on men and women are kind of left in the dust. And I'm wondering, especially during perimenopause and menopause, like what types of cognitive shifts are noticeable specifically for women?
For women, we have a very different aging and cognitive aging trajectory because of menopause. And estrogen is not just a hormone that affects our fertility, it affects several key aspects of our health, bone as well as brain. Estrogen receptors line the hippocampus, they're all over the brain. And when you have varying levels of estrogen, you're going to have varying levels of cognitive function. Lower levels of estrogen reduce dopamine levels within the brain. That's part of the reason you have different levels of motivation throughout your cycle. And that's also part of the reason that you can have brain fog, reduction in motivation as you enter this perimenopause and menopause phase. Hormone replacement therapy got a really bad rep because of this women's health study that showed it had sort of this slight increase in breast cancer, but a lot of the stats were done wrong on that. And if you actually look at the absolute risk from hormone replacement therapy, it's like 0.4% increase in diagnoses, but no increase in death. And the benefits that you get from HRT far outweigh that small risk that you get when taking it. Women that do not do HRT, especially in the late perimenopause, early menopause phase, have a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease and other dementia compared to those that do not do HRT. And the key with HRT and cognitive longevity is you can't start doing it, 5 years, 10 years after menopause. You really got to start early menopause to get those dementia reduction effects because if you are just have this massive drop off in estrogen and you don't replace it, the brain can't recover. Neurons are post mitotic. They don't divide anymore. They are not able to recover. So you really want to do HRT when you're ready for it. Talk to your doctor about it.
Well, and so many doctors I feel like aren't versed in this. There's so much misinformation out there, and there are so many people that say one thing and they say the other thing. And it's like, A, how does a person supposed to know when they're ready for it? And B, who do you trust? And they won't even do the hormone testing, most traditional doctors, right? So, like, luckily Stephanie and have the capabilities to test our hormones, but for the average person out there, they don't have that capability unless they come to us or some other integrative health practitioner. And so, like, what do you recommend for people?
Yeah, it's so annoying. I tried to get my hormones tested. I'm getting married in September. I'm ready to have a family. So, like, I want to know where I'm at. And I asked my doctor, and he basically said, unless you have symptoms, like, I can't test you. Insurance won't cover it. It was absolutely insane. I ended up going to Function because it's $500. They use FSA or HSA cards if your like employer provides that. So it's kind of the cheapest way to get a ton of testing, way beyond your annual physical. Get those answers. They also have an omega-3 test, and get answers about your hormones. And this is going to be so important if you're 30 today and you want to do HRT in the future, you want to know your hormone levels now so that you can figure out what do I need to replace them at later. And this is true for both men and women. If you are younger, 20s, 30s, really get tested now so that you know what to replace it to because we also have different receptors levels. And so someone's estrogen at, X nanoliters per milliliter is going to be different than another person's because of that receptor density difference across people. If you don't have that information, I feel like you're just going to have to try different levels, start low, increase as you move forward with symptom
This
tracking.
topic is so near and dear to me because, and I also will say, I know we're talking about this for like perimenopause, but you mentioned like even being in your 30s and getting to, in baseline and having those numbers. And there's a lot of women out there that are either pre-childbearing age or beyond that aren't also into menopause, that their hormones are off and their estrogen is low, like for myself personally. And my OB never once mentioned brain health as a potential risk. I've talked about bone health, and we just actually will be have just dropped an episode on this topic shortly before yours, but it's just not being talked about enough. And so I agree with you, getting those numbers tested. And a lot of times your OB will only test like your FSH hormone, your follicular stimulating hormone. They won't do, and they won't look at your estrogen to progesterone ratio. So reach out to Marnie and myself or find another functional integrative provider, because I think even at a young age, having these numbers tested at on an annual basis, regardless of whether you want to have kids or when you want to maybe try to have kids, because yeah, it's your bone health. And also now we're learning more about the brain health, which is so important. And there's a lot of women out there that are like, oh, I'm brain fog. I can't think. I can't remember things. And now it makes sense why. And just knowing that you can do things preventatively and that you can get the hormone replacement therapy. And, I'm just happy and thankful for people like you that are bringing this to our attention so that we can have these conversations.
It's so important. And let's say, some people don't care about sort of their physical aging. If you just care about how you look as you get older, HRT also helps with that. So we think about bone loss throughout our body, but actually a major aspect of facial aging is facial bone loss. So if you have a degradation of that architecture and the skin is slacking, you're going to have sort of more of an aging face. HRT will also help with that. And there's actually been studies showing women on HRT versus not, and just physical aging attributes. And you can see there's a major, major difference. It really helps across the board to make sure that your hormones are balanced. I think we disregard how important hormones are across the board, not just for fertility, brain health, bone health, muscle composition, everything. It's so important. It's so integrative to our physiology and our health.
So, how long would you say someone could be on a patch, an HRT, beyond menopause? So, say they're like now in 655 or older.
I mean, I'm not a hormone medical doctor, so I don't wanna give any recommendations, but I'd be on it forever.
Okay.
What's the like,
I'm just curious.
I
This
mean,
is
I
a
don't
topic we should
yeah.
explore maybe further on another episode, actually.
Well, and I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on something aside from HRT that's more holistic, if you've dove into that at all.
There's some creams I think people use if you don't wanna take, a pill. It can be, transduced transdermally, like, your skin can absorb a lot of things. So if you don't wanna take a pill or injections, maybe that's a better option. If you want an above average result, you need to take an above average approach. Not everything is gonna have a holistic answer, unfortunately, because we're trying to go beyond what our biology, naturally gave us. Previously, we were having babies at 20 and dying at 40. So if you wanna do something that's more than that, you gotta sort of hit up the docs.
Let's face it, after a night out with friends, bouncing back the next morning isn't always easy. I used to feel like I had to choose between enjoying a drink and showing up the next day with energy. But then we discovered ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink, and everything changed.
ZBiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic designed by PhD scientists to help you feel your best the day after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, an unwanted byproduct forms in your gut. That's what makes you feel off the next day, not dehydration.
ZBiotics is built to produce an enzyme that helps break down that byproduct. You simply drink ZBiotics as your first drink of the night, enjoy responsibly, and you're set up for a better tomorrow.
We've both had it before weddings, dinner parties, and girls' nights. And every time we wake up the next day feeling awesome, ready to hit the pickleball court or head out for a hike.
So as summer winds down, whether you're heading to a night out with friends or your next weekend getaway, don't forget to pack ZBiotics.
Go to zbiotics.com/AOLW.
For 15% off your first order.
It's backed by a 100% money back guarantee, so you've got nothing to lose.
Okay, we know you spend your time like with all this like biohacking and the latest and greatest, and you're sort of at the forefront of all that. What would you recommend right now, looking ahead to where we're going with this? Like, what would you start doing to have your biggest bang? For our listeners, a lot of them out there are, maybe they're mid-30s to mid-50s and they're focused on longevity now, or maybe they're in menopause. What's the science supporting from an anti-aging and longevity standpoint?
This isn't necessarily a biohacking thing because it's been around forever, but sauna. Sauna has incredible benefits for cognitive longevity, reduces dementia risk by 66%, decreases mortality risk anywhere from 40 to 50%, reduces cardiovascular risk by 47%. There's so many incredible benefits of sauna, and we have elucidated some of those mechanisms. Anything from vascular function. Because you're getting your blood pumping, it's hot. You improve blood flow, and this improves brain health because, like we talked about before, vascular function in the brain is so important for cognitive longevity. And it increases something called heat shock proteins. Heat shock proteins are chaperone proteins, and these help proteins fold. And protein aggregates, both in Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, these protein aggregates are tightly linked to these neurodegenerative diseases. And so if you can prevent that plaque formation by driving up your HSPs through sauna use, it's going to help you. It also activates an NRF2 pathway, which is this anti-inflammatory pathway. You're also sweating, so you are detoxing. I kind of hate that word, but there is a lot of water soluble loss of like BPA phthalates and other sort of toxins that come out through sweat that you're going to get through a sauna. Although it's not totally biohacking because it's been around forever, that's my number one rec outside of, exercise, nutrition, and some
Well,
supplements.
we love that.
So
Yeah.
we're big sauna fans. I think I heard you say on a podcast that the traditional rock saunas are better than infrared saunas. I do have an infrared sauna and I feel the benefits from it. Like I hope I'm getting some cognitive benefit. I think it was you that said it needed to be like above 180 degrees or something.
So the original Finnish studies used a traditional Finnish sauna, and their temperatures were from 175 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Real thing that you need when you get into a sauna is to get your core body temperature to a certain level. I think it's like 92 or I forget the exact temperature, but you can get that in an infrared sauna. You just have to stay in longer. So I also have an infrared sauna. It gets to like 165, 170. And so I'll just stay in there for, instead of 20 minutes or 15 minutes, I'll stay in there for like 25 to 30 minutes. It's really about your core body temperature. The nice thing about an infrared sauna is you'll sweat more. So I have access to both. And I definitely sweat more in an infrared sauna than in traditional sauna. So if you have a lot of microplastics or, things that you want to sweat out, an infrared sauna is going to be better for that.
I can just feel the benefits from it. I mean, I feel like every time I'm on a plane, when I come home, the first thing I want to do is get in the sauna and like sweat out all the ick.
And I have such a hard
Yes.
time doing the sauna though in the summer because I feel like I'm sweating so much outside. So you're gonna make me go in my basement later today, hopefully, and do a sauna session because of the brain health, because there's different benefits. And I hadn't really focused so much on the brain health aspect of sauning, actually, the benefits.
Well, and
Yeah,
then
you
there's the
want to.
hair issue. It's like when I wash my hair, I don't want a sauna unless you have any good tips for that
To
because
go
then my hair gets all gross.
So I do have a tip. My tip is I'll wrap it in a towel. I'll do maybe like some heat protectant spray on my hair, wrap it in a towel, and then this is gross, but like I'll do like dry shampoo after because my scalp is sweating. And sort of that combo. And someone needs to make a cool, chic sauna hat for women that protects their hair.
Right.
I've like looked for
Yes.
it everywhere. I can't find it.
Oh my
Please,
God,
someone make
Jesse
that.
Itzler, Sarah
Yeah, that could
Blakely.
be your new
You need
project.
one for
Because those
women.
sauna hats for men, I'm like, what is I mean, I have one. We got
Yeah, yeah, they do
no.
nothing. I mean, they're
Right.
goofy.
I feel like an idiot in
Yeah.
them. Like, what is
Yeah,
this?
they're so
It's
goofy.
gonna flatten our hair. It's
Totally.
fine for men with short hair or ones that don't have a lot of hair.
And then
Totally.
it's like, why do you even need that? Like, you're bald. You're close to bald.
And you don't have the issues with the maintenance of washing your hair and drying it or curling it or whatever you're gonna do, right?
Yeah, it's annoying. Being a girl, we have all these extra things.
Right. Totally. I know we were touching on biohacking tools, and the sauna is not really a biohacking tool, but there's like so much coming out. I feel like on a daily basis, there's the red light therapy and the hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and there's so much out there. Is there anything that's really caught your eye where you're like, okay, I'm so excited to like dive deeper into this because I think it's really gonna change longevity moving forward for people?
The big thing that I have become more and more excited about is hyperbaric oxygen chambers. I used to be a non-believer and really not think this did anything because basically what a hyperbaric is you have a slightly higher increase of oxygen compared to nitrogen and other molecules in the air that you're breathing in. And sort of the idea is if you have more oxygen, you can get more energy from your mitochondria. Oxygen is required for aerobic respiration to create ATP for mitochondria. And this energy depletion that from mitochondria is, key aspect of aging, as well as sort of other energy related diseases like diabetes. And I didn't really believe that just because you have more oxygen that your cells are actually going to improve their function. But there were now more and more clinical studies showing it helps with wound healing, it helps with traumatic brain injury, it helps with all these different aspects of both cognitive performance, cognitive recovery, stroke recovery, as well as even skin healing. I'm just so bullish on that now as more and more of these clinical studies have come out. The only thing with hyperbaric is the chambers are so expensive and like you have to go and get it. And if you really want results, you got to do it regularly. So yeah, my dream is to have a hyperbaric in the house one day.
So are you going and using them? Like, are you regularly going somewhere to use one? And what is that experience like?
I've gone like maybe once a month, but you go and you basically sit in this tube and you get hooked up to these lines that are under your nose that give you the oxygen. And it's really relaxing. And what's interesting is I have an Aura ring. My HRV drastically increases, which is a sign of relaxation when I'm in the hyperbaric. And my heart rate declines. And it's like my body is clearly just taking a breath. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Okay, that's
I wonder
amazing.
if we
Well,
have
Marnie
one. We have
talks
to go
about this.
check it out.
Well, I know there's one. So there's a functional chiropractor that I've seen before, and that's the first time I did the infrared sauna and I did another light therapy treatment, and he let me do a couple, and I actually didn't do. This was like probably 5 years ago now, and I didn't do the hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And now I'm like I want to go back. So there's one close to me, Marnie. So not that far
Maybe
from
we might
you.
have to
So
do
you
something
could
on
definitely.
site.
Yeah, no, that would be very cool. I mean, they're cool. My son is actually sees them somewhat regularly as for chiropractic care. Um, I was actually talking with a friend of mine and her dad, and I cannot remember exactly what his condition is, but he had to go back to the hospital, and that's part of his treatment. And they have one on site, and she's like, the struggle was getting in. So it's obvious they're using them, but it was like getting it scheduled, which I thought was pretty cool as part of his care. And this is like it's not in a special functional or integrative clinic. It's the regular hospital that he goes to.
Yeah, so the ones in the hospital are actually typically the highest quality. The hard shell ones are the best ones. You get a higher PSI, meaning a higher pressure of that oxygen. You can get them at home, the inflatable kind, from like $3,000 to $5,000. So if you really end up like loving it, you can do that. The PSI is lower, so you have to stay in longer to get the same benefits. But that honestly, it was those hospitals that did all these case studies and clinical studies showing that hyperbaric is so helpful that really, really convinced me that this is real. This isn't pseudoscience or some crazy thing people are doing.
If you think about it, if we all just learned how to breathe properly and deeply, wouldn't we be getting in that deep oxygen the same way? I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, especially when I think about how my HRV dropped when I was in hyperbaric. Breath work is amazing for, reducing that sympathetic tone and improving your emotional regulation and just improving your ability to breathe properly and self-reduce your own sort of cortisol and these stress circuits which drive aging.
Well, and that's where it gets to the foundation, like the foundational principles versus stacking in all these things. If we just, ate well and breathed and slept and moved our body, then we wouldn't necessarily need all these things. But part of it is we are living in a modern, fast paced world. And so, absent us kind of going off the grid, these are some, whether you want to call them biohacking tools or not, some strategies and tips that are really helpful to continue to live well, right?
It would be great to just do everything naturally and you don't have to do all these extra things, but the reality is it's important. It's like unavoidable to avoid microplastics. They're everywhere. You're just trying to reduce your load. So you want an infrared sauna so you can like sweat that out. And we live in stressful times, so you need tactics to de-stress your mind and your body. It's just we just got to kind of accept the terms we were given and do the best we can.
What are your non-negotiables when it comes to your own personal longevity and brain health?
Non-negotiable for sure is exercise, making sure honestly, I work out 6 to 7 times a week. I That's something that I'm always 100% on. There's other things that I'm 80/20, like nutrition. 80% of the time, I'm eating very, very healthy. 20% of the time, couple nights a week, I will go out and eat whatever I want. Because for me, that mentally, that's better for me. I just can't be one of those people that's eating, chicken breasts and broccoli every single day.
Yep.
But I can work out every
Right
day.
there with you.
So, and your muscles and bones and your body can tolerate that, or are you varying it so that some days maybe it's just a nice walk and some stretching?
It's such a good point. Definitely varies. So 2 times a week, I do the 4 by 4 for that, zone 5 training. Pretty much every day,
And can
I'll
you explain what that is for our listeners, the 4 by 4?
Yeah, so it's 4 minutes of all-out sprinting and then 4 minutes of walking recovery, and then you repeat that 4 times. So it's like 32 minutes. It's actually a really quick workout. And it just helps you get into that zone 5 area without sort of overdriving your body because you have that walking rest in between. And it's also what multiple studies have used to identify zone 5 and high intensity workouts and the lactate that's produced by them to improve cognitive outcomes, performance, longevity.
You said 4 minutes of sprinting, 4 minutes of walking, and then what was the
Repeat 4
next?
times.
Oh,
4
repeat.
times.
I missed that. So you do that, and then what other things are you doing?
So I'll do yoga 1 to 2 times a week, and then I'll do strength 3 times a week. Sometimes my yoga counts as strength. I live in LA, our yoga classes are no joke. So anyone who's been to a yoga class here, like, it is strength training. We're doing handstands and forearm stands and dolphin pose. So it is I consider it strength training as well as mobility and flexibility. And then for strength, I'll switch between 2 leg days and 1 arm day. I'm not trying to like bulk up my arms, so I focus a lot of my strength training on my lower body. Also, the most of your mitochondria within your muscles are in your lower body because those muscle groups are larger. So this idea that you have to have, really strong arm strength to improve your, muscle health is wrong. Actually, most of it's in your lower body. And even though all the tests for its grip strength, because it
Yeah, I
it
was just
can
gonna
be
say, what about the grip strength?
Yeah.
yeah, I find that annoying. It's a marker for if you're working out, period, whereas most people, when they're doing strength training, they're holding weights, and you even if you're let's say you're doing an RDL, which a reverse deadlift, if you are doing that, you have to hold the weight. So that is going to improve your grip strength, even though it's a lower body exercise. So it generally maps onto total body strength. It's not a perfect measurement. It's just sort of much easier to do in the clinic than something like a DEXA scan.
Okay, so you talked about your workouts, your nutrition, kind of an 80-20. Anything else that's a non-negotiable for you?
Sauna, meditation,
Yeah.
those are sort of the two things that I do every single day that are so important for my cognitive longevity and my mental health. And I mean, also social connections, I think are so important. We're living in a more and more isolated society, and having social connections is linked to living a longer life and also a happier one. If you don't, have people to share it with, what's the point?
Absolutely. And, a lot of our listeners out there are moms and they're busy and they may be working outside the home and raising children. And so, someone may be like, oh my gosh, I can't even get my workout in, yet alone focus on nutrition, sauna, meditation. Any suggestions to like habit stack for some of these or tips or little hacks that you do when you don't have a lot of time?
Yeah, so a walking pad. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you can get a walking pad, you can take calls or you can do work while you're walking, just that alone is really going to improve your health. So also, walking is the best way to lose weight if you struggle with that, because it's not increasing your hunger levels as much as something like a zone 5. So your hunger levels are gonna sort of remain more stable while you're actually still burning these calories, and it's typically the fat max zone for most people, meaning that's the zone that you burn the most fat. Being overweight is a major issue if you want to live longer. It just is. Um, and another habit stack is if you're in the more biohacking thing, I have a red light. I meditate while I'm in my red light, or I meditate while I'm in the sauna and try to just knock things out together. Because I don't have kids yet, but I'm also very busy. I work at like a precision medicine company. I post on social media. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. Those are such great suggestions. Thank you.
So, if you had one suggestion for like women in midlife to stay sharp and vibrant besides exercise, what would it be?
So there's a few things, but I'm gonna say this one because we haven't talked about it, which is creatine.
I was just going to say
Yes,
that.
I
Okay,
was
good. I'm
hoping we could
glad you
talk
asked.
about creatine.
Creatine, was originally marketed as this bulking supplement, and it's gonna help your muscles perform better, and so it's I think like 60% of creatine users are men, and even more in different studies, but women produce 20% less creatine than men, and we store 70 to 80% less creatine in our muscles. And creatine is not just for muscle health, because the fundamental thing that it fixes is energy production in mitochondria. So it helps mitochondria produce more ATP from the same glucose molecule. We've kind of touched on this a lot, but this degradation of energy production is a major pillar of aging. And so now there's a really exciting work coming out with creatine and Alzheimer's disease, as well as depression work and cognitive performance. So a big paper came out, I think, a few months ago showing that Alzheimer's patients that took 20 grams of creatine per day had a reduction in every, you know, cognitive performance test that they measured when they were taking creatine. So creatine really, really improved cognitive performance in AD, which is a very difficult task. That's $1 billion industry and they still can't do it. In terms of like sleep deprivation, a single dose of 10 grams of creatine improved cognitive performance if you have sleep deprivation. There's now more evidence showing that creatine paired with an SSRI improves depression symptoms and reduces sort of onset of SSRI working. So it makes your SSRI work faster. And for cognitive benefits, you really want to take 10 grams. For muscle benefits, 5 grams is okay. But especially as women, because we produce less, you want to increase that dose.
So it's
Okay, so
interesting.
it's so funny. Marnie and I have talked
So
about
I
creatine a lot
took
lately.
creatine for 6 months maybe, and it literally made me feel bloated in my stomach. Like I did not like the way it made me feel at all. And it took me a long time to figure out what was making me feel bloated, what was causing the bloat. And then I think I saw someone on Instagram actually say creatine's not all it's cracked up to be. And it doesn't, work great for everybody. And here's why, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, oh, I added that. I wonder if that's my issue. So I stopped taking it and it was the issue. So can you speak to that at all?
Yes. So creatine, unfortunately, can cause bloat. I separate out my doses. So I'll do like 5 grams in the morning and 5 grams in the evening. The other thing you can do is if you eat meat, just take 5 grams and make sure that you're eating, meat at lunch and dinner, and you'll get that creatine from the meat. I actually personally get more bloated from eating more meat.
I
So
don't eat
I
meat, so that's
And by meat, do you mean red meat or chicken? Are you considering chicken or turkey in that category?
you can include that. Yeah, you'll get more from red meat, but you can include chicken and turkey. Yeah.
And do you think, because I know there's some capsules, like I'm taking a powder and I had stopped also because I felt like I was bloated all of a sudden. And I've been taking the creatine for like 2 years, but I had upped it to most days versus just my strength days. And I stopped and then I was like, I'm going to just start this up again and see what happens. And I've only been taking it the day I do my strength workout. So it's only 2 days a week. But I'm curious because I knew there were other benefits and I'm interested in these studies. We'll have to find them and link them in the show notes for everyone. But do you think like a powder or a capsule or are there brands that you recommend? Or I don't know, I'm just curious if that could be impacting like Marnie having this bloating issue, for instance.
Thorne is a good brand. I take their
Yeah.
creatine.
is it a
Some of the
capsule or a powder?
It's a powder.
Okay.
Powder. I used to take that and yeah.
Yeah, so you can put it in smoothies or I don't know if you have another drink you can put it in. It's not super strong flavor wise, but water alone is not great. Um, there were some gummies that I actually liked, although most of those are bad. I forget the brand name, but sometimes a gummy just makes life easier. Um, but in general, yeah, Thorne, Momentous, they both have good creatine supplements.
Yeah. And I like Kion as well.
Keon's good too, yeah.
Well, and I was only taking 5 milligrams.
Right. That's all I'm taking too.
So,
Or,
and
yeah.
I was the bloat literally went away when I stopped taking it.
What if you paired it with like psyllium husk, like a fiber?
Hmm.
Maybe try that.
I haven't tried that. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. But you're saying that to get the brain benefits, you really need to be and like if there's depression or the brain health, you need to be taking 10 milligrams, not 5.
That's what all the studies
And pair it
use.
like twice a day. Okay.
Yeah,
So I need to be upping it
Every day, not just on strength days, just to clarify.
every day.
every day. And it's like, what do you prioritize? Because it's really hard to take all of them 100% of the time, especially when you have powders and like, I have so many things.
I definitely rotate my supplements. And then there's like the things I always take, like vitamin D and magnesium. And there's a few things I'm taking every day. But some of the other things, like the mushrooms and other things, I rotate through.
The takeaways here, it sounds like your supplement non-negotiables are the omega-3s and also the creatine.
Yeah, omega-3s, creatine. I also take vitamin D3 and K2. Magnesium. I take L-theanine at night. That's great for me for sleeping. Collagen for me is a big one. I know there's like controversy around that, but I'm happy to, explain why it does really work. And there's actually like, you know, hundreds of studies across thousands of patients showing that it really does work, not just for your skin, but also your ligaments. Astaxanthin I'm taking right now, which I'm loving. Absolutely
And what
loving.
do you notice? I'm just curious.
So I live in LA. One thing I note, and I'm very white, I don't burn. So I will burn sometimes, even if I put sunscreen on. And when I'm taking astaxanthin, I don't burn because it can help UV damage, and it was derived from these algae. And when they become stressed, they start to produce this molecule called astaxanthin, and it protects them from UV exposure, and so it also protects us. But it's the most powerful antioxidant that we have, more powerful than vitamin C. It goes straight to the mitochondria to reduce these ROS. And so it's great for skin health, but it's also been shown to help with brain health, even sometimes used as like an adjunct therapy in cancer. It's a really incredible molecule.
Okay, we really may have to have you come back
Yeah,
on
I'm
and
not
dive
very
into more of
familiar.
this because I have a lot of questions about this, but I know we're going to go down a
Well,
rabbit hole and we need to wrap this
and
up.
one more question. I'm curious on your thoughts on NAD.
Yeah, so I'm not super bullish on NAD. I've taken NMN and NR supplements, and I've gotten injections. I don't think there's a ton of literature out there that really convinces me that it's going to make you live longer. I personally notice energy benefits when I have it. It's not like on my top things of like what everyone should be doing. It's a lot of marketing,
A lot of hype.
a lot of hype. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like focus on the foundational things that we talked about for most people, that's going to take you 80% of the way there, right?
100%. And it's hard to just do the foundational stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, it's hard for people to sleep, get 10,000 steps a day and drink enough water. I mean, that is like insurmountable for a lot of people. And I understand. I get it.
Yeah, it's
So
really hard. It's a full-time job to be healthy.
Yes, it
it
is.
is. And we're living in a world that doesn't support that. Like you go out for a meal or you leave your house and you're bombarded with, I
Everything.
mean, chemicals and we won't even go there, but it is a full-time job. You're right. And it shouldn't be. That's the point.
And we also deal with, like, makeup and skincare that you have to, like, look through and make sure it's not killing you, and it's everything, it's everything.
And sometimes I just throw my hands up and I'm like, WTF, I just want this.
Yeah.
I know it's bad for me, but like hopefully I'm using almost everything clean, but sometimes I just want the lipstick or whatever it is that's not clean. And I just
Right.
got to do it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's for
Well,
mental
because
health
the
then.
stress of
Right.
Yeah,
There you go.
exactly.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, this has been awesome conversation. I think we definitely will need to have you come back on for a part 2 at some point. But in the meantime, where can people find you, follow you? I know you're active on social media.
This was a great conversation. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I would love to come back. So you can find me on TikTok at dr.klinker and the same handle on Instagram, dr.klinker.
Great. And we'll link all that up in the show notes as well.
And one thing we like to ask all of our guests is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
For me, the art of living well is trying to have sort of a seamless integration of things that I learned in science and in the lab that's good for me into my daily life that feels, organic, and it feels like translating those things I learn in the lab into daily life.
And much needed. Like, I love that you have, you're getting the research because that's so important.
Exactly. And then you're helping people in a way that's approachable and, I won't say easy, simple, maybe. Not always easy to implement. So thank you for all the work that you're doing and sharing with everyone. This is such a big topic that I think is not a fad or a trend, but it's going to really continue on as we age and live long and hopefully healthy
And
lives.
I just want to say, you're so lucky that you're as young as you are and doing all of this.
And
Like,
doing
I
this.
wish when, my babies are going off to college and in the working world already. And I wish that I knew before I had kids and was going to go through pregnancy and all of that, what I know today. So you are in a very good spot to have a family.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. Pregnancy will be a whole other journey that I hope I don't get too much health anxiety and stuff, But yeah, we'll see. Thanks.
But a little bit is okay.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have any. That wasn't
Right.
okay. Now that I know about all this health and wellness stuff, like at the time I knew nothing. So
Well, the funny thing is, the things I was worried about was, couldn't eat sushi, the raw fish. And my first pregnancy, I thought I couldn't have any like certain cheeses, and really in reality, it would have been fine. It's just so silly.
Yeah.
And all the other things that were really important to worry about, I had no idea. So
The landscape of information has also changed, though. Like, people are saying completely different things now than they were saying, 20
Right.
years ago. Yeah.
totally. Well, when you know better, you do better. And
Yeah.
we're just on that journey, right, Marnie? So-
Totally. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, have a great
okay.
day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Living Well podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover our show.
And if you're ready to take your health and happiness to the next level, we would love to support you. Whether it's through our transformative group programs, personalized coaching, or functional medicine lab testing, we help uncover the root causes of your health challenges and unlock your vitality.
Visit www.theartoflivingwell.us to learn more and book a free discovery call. Until next time, keep creating your art of living well.